And you're all set.
Great, thanks so much. Welcome. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Empire State Service Corps, Public Service in Action. Tina and myself will be bringing you through all the lovely details. You're going to meet us on our next slide. I'm going to give you a little history about Empire State Service Corps, shortly known as ESSC. ESSC at SUNY Oswego, some of the student details we have, becoming a host site, and then to contact us. So I am Jenn Joyce. I'm Service Learning Coordinator in the Office of Experiential Learning, formerly known as Excel. It is our new name. And I am Student Coordinator for Empire State Service Corps.
I'm Tina Cooper. I'm our Associate Director of Experiential Learning here at SUNY Oswego, and been really excited to be pulled alongside Jenn with Empire State Service Corps. It's been a very big initiative across SUNY in this past year, and Jenn has done an excellent job in getting our students here at the Oswego chapter involved. We're excited to tell you about it.
So we'll start out, we'll do a little bit of history. Couple pictures we have here, our top pictures from when we started onboarding our students on campus, and then we had a kickoff event in October. So a little bit of history, we started hearing chatter about Empire State Service Corps in January of 2024, and finally in May of 2024, Governor Kathy Hochul announced the launch of the Empire State Service Corps. So she decided, along with many others, that 500 SUNY students would get the opportunity to get 300 hours of student employment in public service. So we're excited. On our campus, we were able to get 13 slots for our students, and there are 7 total categories that we'll talk about in one of our future slides for the Empire State Service Corps, but we were able to get students working in 5 of those cohorts on campus. And those 5 are SNAP and basic student needs, civic engagement, sustainability, FAFSA completion, and anti-hate and bias. And we are really hoping that next year we can add the other 2, which is K through 12 tutoring and peer mental health.
And Jenn, I'm going to add some more history. Obviously, for slide purposes, we try to keep them as brief as possible as you're able to, go into it. But hopefully, as you're watching this recording, or if you are here with us, one of the things that we were able to do with Empire State Service Corps, SUNY Oswego, as John Kane and Jessica Harris know, we like to help make things make sense, not necessarily just for our institution. John, I know, and Jess, I know you're part of the focus group with the provost lineage at SUNY administration. Our team over in Experiential Learning are heavily involved with SUNY Career Development Organization, and we work very closely with people like Jamie Frank at SUNY administration, who is our Associate Vice Provost for policy implementation. And this program came as another initiative alongside things like incremental funding for internships. This was another way from the state side to help increase paid applied learning opportunities for students. When this initially came out, it was marketed as paid community service. And a lot of our folks across SUNY, whether they were in career offices, community service offices, civic engagement offices, or experiential learning offices, had a lot of points of confusion and needed to gain as much knowledge about this as possible. And I want to give a huge shout out to our team at SUNY Oswego, both our faculty and staff that supported us making sure that we had the appropriate processes and information for students, because a program like this that's statewide, hiring 500 students across SUNY, it is a process. It is not something that can just be shelled out overnight. We had to make sure that things made sense for students, that we were marketing them in a way that also didn't work against some of the terminologies that we had on our own campuses in terms of what community service versus internship versus paid student employment means. And we had to work very closely with SUNY administration communications team. And Kyle Adams at admin was incredible in making sure that as we were changing the narrative in how we were marketing this program SUNY wide, Jenn came into play a lot with that as far as helping a lot of the coordinators of service learning across SUNY to make this make sense. We have absolutely done a lot as SUNY Oswego for this overall program, not just the SUNY Oswego chapter. And I just want to commend our institution as a whole for that.
Thank you. So this is just a little snapshot of some of the things that have been going on this past semester. So our first picture has one of our ESSC students, Dan, working with sustainability. We've had working with the shop. They have had some programs, especially for Halloween in the second picture. The third picture was a viewing party that civic engagement cohort had put on election night. So they had students there watching the election night live and having activities for students. And that fourth picture, again, was with SHOP and a Hunger and Homelessness Week food drive that they did on campus. There's been many other programs that happened in the fall, but these I know were very talked about on campus. So currently these are our five, we have 6 sites in 5 cohorts. So our SNAP and basic student needs cohort right now is working really closely with the shop. They're also helping students fill out SNAP applications and understanding them and making sure that they're getting as much benefits as they can. Sustainability obviously is working with sustainability and all the initiatives they have on campus, but they're also doing some work at Rice Creek as well. Civic engagement worked a lot with Vote Oswego, and now they're planning programming as we move forward with civic engagement initiatives on campus. And FAFSA completion is again helping students with their FAFSA applications and also some other financial aid initiatives. We have 2 sites for anti-hate and bias. One is with the Institute for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Transformative Practices. And our second site is with Accessibility Resources. So our 13 students are working in these 6 sites. So some information about our students. I've talked a lot about the content areas, but it really is amazing that students can get 300 paid hours across an academic year. So once they get into the program in the fall, they don't have to worry about getting a job each semester. They've actually done work over the winter break. And we did just find out that they have the opportunity to work into the summer so they can get those full 300 hours. Another amazing piece that SUNY has brought to us as well is linked us with AmeriCorps. So students are eligible to get an educational award through AmeriCorps, but also all of the alumni benefits that come from AmeriCorps as well. And then, of course, we always talk about those career-ready skills. So not only are students doing, the work on campus, but they're working with staff on campus. They're learning experiences from them. We're also doing professional development through our office. We're linking them to other professionals that'll really help them just go further with their career. Did you have anything you wanted to add for this slide, Tina?
I'm just going to add, I'm not sure if I recall, but so one of the things that, Jenn tried to do with our students with this, for a student coming into a position like this, it's not your average job where you're just applying to something, whether that's on Handshake or with a department, and then getting into the job and then doing the job. There are a lot of pieces to this that to a student, I can absolutely imagine myself in 2011 when I was an undergrad here trying to navigate this and having no idea what to do because you have your ESSC coordinator as a student, as Jen, you have your supervisor in your content impact area, you have SUNY administration, you have AmeriCorps, and all of these pieces. So Jen actually created a Brightspace shell for students that are a part of this cohort, to be able to navigate a lot of the information, but not just the information, being able to make sure that our supervisors and impact and content areas, with this program being in its infancy, year one, making sure that our students have enough projects to accumulate 300 hours is not always the easiest. We have a lot of our interns across campus that on average you got a 3 credit internship, which means that they're earning about 120 hours during a 15-week semester. And we see students struggling sometimes to get those hours all the time as full-time students taking 15, sometimes 18 credits. So having students in a full-time credit load and needing to earn 300 hours over the course of a year is not as easy as it might sound. Yes, they are paid $16 an hour. Yes, it is a job, but they have other things that they're doing, right? So trying to make sure that there is also learning and components of civic involvement in every impact area, professional development pieces, skills pieces that are not just what the student is doing and going as far as a project on site is really important. So that at some point, Jen, I think it would be really great in a future breakout to be able to show maybe at the end of this year for spring breakouts, summer breakouts, the Brightspace shell that you created and how it's been helping students with all of those pieces as well. The supervisors have really appreciated that this is not just on them to get those hours for students, that there are a lot of opportunities, whether it be trainings from AmeriCorps, trainings from SUNY, opportunities to connect, like Jen was saying, with different professionals and mentors in their area. It really is a true cohort rather than here's a public service job, go do the job. So I just want to make that obvious.
Great. All right. So this is going to be details of our sites. Tina works very closely with getting our sites set up. So I'll kind of let her take over with this part, and she's going to talk about all about our sites and hopefully how you can be part of that.
Yeah. And again, we had about a month and a half to put sites in place for this first initial year after finding out that this was happening for 24-25. Truth be told, the application for students is a SUNY-based application. It is not a SUNY Oswego-based application. And those applicants are forwarded to us. So Jen was being bombarded with all of the 80 applicants that were coming in for this program. We got up, I think when we finally got up to like 60, we were just like, whoa, all right, this is going. This is open to students. So we had to move very quickly with working with our site partners that students were going to be able to go to. We right now are fully on campus with our sites. That is absolutely going to change for this coming year, but it's a lot easier to put an on-campus site partner in place in some of these areas than it is off campus because of things like affiliation agreements and, for example, K-12 tutoring. I went to some folks, honestly, the first person I turned to was Casey Town. It just is a person who understands tutoring to her core from a college academic level. And she got me in touch with some folks in the community to understand what students needed to do in order to become tutors in K-12 as it pertains to Department of Education standards and all the things that we needed to be aware of. And we had to decide what sites were feasible in the different impact areas in a very short period of time to make sure these students could start in the beginning of fall, because we didn't want to put them in a situation where they weren't going to be able to get these 300 hours. So the first person that joined on immediately was April Lopez in the Dean of Students office. Allison Rank as well. She was happy to take students for civic engagement. Kate Spector and Kristen Haynes are a duo team of supervisors over in sustainability for FAFSA completion. Yadi was one of our later partners once we had originally gotten an allotment of 9 slots for students, and then SUNY expanded it to 13 for us once Jen had applied for more spaces for students. And we were able to go back to those initial applications, and she was able to interview more students and bring 4 more on. Anti-hate and bias. Originally, we started with the Institute as the first site. And as we got more students, knew that we needed, again, more spaces. Maddie Knack over in accessibility with her new role as assistant director. We're really thankful to her because she was in a brand new role. And we still, from a standpoint of wanting to support students where we don't have as many student advocates who actually are paid and work in accessibility. I had talked to Pat for years about having interns, and with either staff changes or whatever it may be, now just seemed like a really good time, especially since Maddie had come from orientation, and it had overseen all of the Laker Leader students, as well as other student workers in orientation. She's a very strong student supervisor, so she took students on in accessibility to start having students be peer facing. Peer facing is really powerful on our campus. That's why a lot of our internship programs on campus that are paid are peer facing internship programs, because they support student success from every angle that we possibly can. K through 12 tutoring is the area that we want to make sure that we're incorporating for this coming year, especially with how many student teacher majors we have on this campus. Having access to K through 12 tutoring when students in our freshman through senior year, a lot of them in the School of Education aren't really able to fit in internships. They absolutely have clinical teaching experiences in student teaching and observation and placements, but they're not necessarily able to do as much that's related in freshman year and sophomore year. And Empire State Service Corps employment is available through all 4 of those years. So being able to enable our freshman and sophomore students in the School of Education this coming year in the K through 12 tutoring areas would be really powerful for those students, especially those that want to work within the community. We also, for federal work study every year, actually have a requirement to have at least, I think Yadi mentioned to me, at least 2 students a year that have to be working in the local school district as federal work study students off campus who are working in K through 12 tutoring. So I partner with Yadi on a lot when it comes to understanding student employment and what our requirements are for our work study students. And this is not work study employment. This is student assistant employment through the university. So we're just trying to figure out where different pieces match up, and she knows a lot. And, Kathy Flaherty is still someone that she works with, who had been helping those students to work in K through 12 tutoring. So leaning on our campus partners who have a full understanding of how we can grow the K through 12 tutoring for the 25-26 year is going to be very important. If anyone does have, we do have some contacts through our Focus Forward program. Jen is our past Focus Forward coordinator with local school districts. So this is something with the timeline we're on right now that we should be able to get ready and set up for students for the coming year. Peer mental health is always an important subject. We're very lucky to have Kyle Zintar, who has a COPE program on campus. And the reason why you don't necessarily see students in the counseling center for ESSC is because we actually already have a paid internship program in the counseling center. After students are COPE peers, they're able to move on to paid internships. That does not mean that we aren't going to have that conversation for Empire State Service Corps to see what's able to be done for the coming year. But again, for 24-25, we were working on this much time. So we did the best that we could to create quality within each of the individual sites and making sure that we were working with supervisors who really felt like they could take this on at that juncture. Shout out to Lillian over in the Institute, because we were like, hey, do you think you can take some students for this? And she was really realistic. She's like, I think I can take one and do a really good job with it for one student. And she has. So I really appreciate our campus with being realistic, not trying to tell us they can do something when they really didn't have the time for it, and putting a lot of time and effort into mentoring these students in these impact areas. We've got a lot of people on the campus who know a lot about what needs to be done for our students and community in these areas. We're especially with maybe some of the things that folks have seen with Allison Rank and civic engagement this year, our students going to the White House. and being able to be a part of everything that she's done for our campus and civic engagement. These have been very highly talked about areas over the past 5 years on our campus already. So we're excited that we were able to partner with these 13 students who really care about these areas. And if they didn't previously care about them, they definitely do now. So.
Great. So yeah, just Tina touched on a lot of things, and really just the most important thing is that we're here to help you every step of the way. If you decide to become a host site for
Partners
Service
that you
Corps.
think, I'm looking at Jess Harris, who's, I can see you. Hi. You've got excellent site partners in wellness management that are not-for-profits. Feel free to chat with us if you think that some of them might be a good fit. I especially think of rural and migrant ministry, with a lot of that they do to advocate for, folks who are impacted by their organization and needing a lot of that. That is absolutely a civic engagement area. So.
Great.
So I have
So
a
yeah,
question.
what was that?
Oh, I have a question.
Yep, there you go.
So with this, can you just explain a little bit? So as, and I know Ron's an internship faculty sponsor as well for tech ed. So with looking at the internship process and then Empire State Services, what are the differences or how can they be aligned? So let's say I have a student that needs to get internship credit for HSC 498, but they're interested in maybe doing something with shop. Is that different than the internship that's already in shop, or how are they connected? What does that look like?
Yeah, so, and that was one of the things we wanted to be careful of. So Empire State Service Corps, when students apply, it is a completely separate process. Is it posted in Handshake? Yes, but it does bring a student to the SUNY application. Any student who is accepted into the process to become an Empire State Service Corps student is you apply to SUNY administration's application system. The applications all get forwarded to Jenn. Jenn is the reviewer for all of the resumes and interests for the students. The students who are eligible for Empire State Service Corps are most students. There are very minimal qualifications. It's much different than internship in the way that you have to be junior, senior status. So for example, if I'm a student that gets selected for one of I'm hoping for like 15 spots for this coming year. I just like that number. It sounds good. Maybe 20, not sure. What are you thinking, Jenn? Say we've got 20 students that are in Empire State Service Corps. We have a really good range right now of students who are also freshmen. I'm excited about that because it gets them experience sooner. Now, if I had a student, the past fall was very difficult to align credit with this because of the timeline that SUNY rolled it out with. We had to put everything in place, and most of our students were not eligible for internship credit anyway, and had also already registered for all of their classes without internship in mind. For spring, any student who is in Empire State Service Corps that's eligible for internship credit, we can absolutely work with that student for. So Jess, if I have a wellness management student that is either, again, they've taken what they need to for internship and they meet the requisites for their department to earn internship credit, we can absolutely help them to earn internship credit for this in the same way that we would support a student who is working in auxiliary services with Angela Dappa as a marketing student assistant. They were a second semester sophomore and they were not able to earn internship credit yet. The next semester they did it with her. They're going to have some new roles, some advanced roles, and they're still, again, a student assistant. We can absolutely still work with Angela and a faculty sponsor to get them internship credit for that next semester once they're that junior status. The way that I'm helping a lot of our on-campus people to think about student experiences is you don't always have to market things as internship. If you're going to market something as internship on our campus, that means that you're requiring a student to earn credit and you're requiring that 2.5 GPA junior senior status. If you're marketing something like Angela over in auxiliary services, she markets a marketing assistant student role, freshman through graduate student. And down at the bottom of the posting, it says, if you're eligible for internship credit, we can also help you embed that in. It can become a paid internship. First and foremost, it's paid employment. It is a paid public service job for an Empire State Service Corps student, but absolutely, students can, if it aligns with the faculty sponsors' goals for the course that they're taking, whether it's Ron with tech management and it's a TED 498 6 credit, because again, 300 hours, I mean, we can easily work with a student who's accepted to load hours into one semester to make sure that they're going to get 240 in a semester or a certain time range. That if we know ahead of time, that's not that difficult to do. There are a lot of opportunities with this because this isn't even budget from our campus. This money for the wages for these students comes from SUNY administration to us, to Jen, so that we can make sure that the students are getting they are getting paid for every single hour they're doing. And how we work this with a student is based on student need. Absolutely. So it might look different for different students based on what their needs are for that year.
Sounds good. And then in regards to like the site partners, so for example, you mentioned RMM. So do I have them reach out to you guys to set
Yeah,
that up?
Jen and I
Is
would
that-
both meet with them, and you could come too if you wanted,
Okay.
so that
Alright.
you understand it fully as like one of the, I mean, you're on their board. We want to make sure that our faculty partners, for example, I'm meeting with a couple faculty a little bit in probably about 40 minutes because they're involved in helping to recruit some students for an internship program through a school of business grant. And they know that they should pull me in because of the requirements for internship. They're going to need credit in order to be, paid by this grant and everything. And also I know Mallory's video is off right now, but Mallory, Jen, and we've learned way more than we ever expected or wanted to about things like RF accounts and state account money and wages versus scholarships versus educational expenses. What is, what isn't, state wages versus paying wages out of RF and fringe benefits and ORSP and all of these processes that have been thrown at us between incremental money, Empire State Service Corps, the paid internship community of practice that we're a part of with Jess. All of those different initiatives equate to logistics processes and then also needing to convey very specific information to different populations in different ways to make sure it makes sense to those different populations. And it's not easy. So anytime we've got grant funding for internships or state funding for internships or programmatic funding for internships through Empire State Service Corps, the reason why it's powerful to have experiential learning as a centralized office on campus is because we're keeping track of all of those things and able to convey like, oh, okay, there's a grant over in this school that wants to pay internships for this site. Well, I can tell you how many internship slots that site already has for impact funding. I can tell you, oh yeah, this faculty is actually on the board for that organization for a different department that they're working with. All of that matters so that we're not crossing wires and causing fires. So trying to make sure that our site partners understand definitely includes our faculty. I prefer if a faculty has a partner that they want to bring in and they are consistently working with that partner, I prefer to have the conversations with the faculty there so that they know what's going on then. It is a lot easier. Some folks don't necessarily like hopping on Zooms for our outside partners, but many of them do. We try to push it. It's not like they need to have the Zoom account or the Zoom link. It's a lot easier to either have an in-person meeting if it's local or a Zoom meeting, I think, than having phone calls and emails go back and forth, because it's just a lot easier when you're talking about funding grants versus state funds versus programmatic. It's a lot easier to get those wires crossed. And ultimately, I need to make sure that my faculty sponsors have the same information that I do and vice versa, so that our site partners and ultimately students don't get confused. It's really the students that have to fill out their hiring paperwork and do their timesheets. And, for Empire State Service Corps program, as an example, a really good example of this is every student in Empire State Service Corps has to do their payroll timesheets to earn their $16 an hour as a student employee. Then they also have to log those same hours in AmeriCorps system, America Learns. Now, SUNY came to us and told us this, specifically told Jenn this, and gave Jenn the option to either let the site supervisors at the different impact areas approve those America Learn timesheets and have to make accounts in America Learns and all of that, or just have Jenn also approve those timesheets. And we were like, yeah, Jenn's gonna do that too, because the more systems, the more paperwork, that's why we're trying to keep it as concise as possible, because the more pieces you have with more hands in the pot, it's going to get confusing very quickly. Some other institutions across SUNY have chosen to do it different ways, and I think are very quickly learning that keeping it as streamlined with as few people as possible is the way to go, to make sure that students get their money, their educational award, and their hours and application into AmeriCorps approved and done in a timely manner. Same thing with a lot of our funding programs.
So with that, Tina, all of the sites that you guys listed for this past year, the 13, so those are all so the whole thing is connected with AmeriCorps? That's how
Yes.
it, okay.
So Empire
not
State
like
Service Corps.
separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all, so all of those students, full disclosure, and this is not, this was news to all of us at SUNY. Originally, we were not the people to determine the impact areas that Empire State Service Corps could include. We worked really heavily, Mallory and I especially at the very beginning worked really closely with admin, because we raised concerns at how this was being marketed, because there were many faculty and staff across SUNY that didn't agree that it paid community service was the right term. And then they went to calling it paid internships. And again, when you've got 64 institutions, they all define internship differently. SUNY's definition of internship is not unanimous across schools in what that means on campus to students. So we wanted to make sure that our SUNY campuses, both 2-year and 4-year, some of our 2-year campuses don't even have internship programs. So we wanted to give that autonomy back language-wise and marketing-wise. So we worked really closely with SUNY to rebrand it into paid public service jobs. And from there, again, realized things along the way, like none of the institutions picked the impact areas. We have no problem with the impact areas. They're very strong impact areas, but how were they being defined? What sites could be used for them? There was a process through SUNY administration, still is, where a site has to apply through SUNY to be vetted. Now, later on, we found out that the only reason for that was because SUNY does have to make sure that they're paying taxes and in good standing with the IRS and the state, which we get. But we didn't know that that was the reason at first. And we needed to understand the implications of why certain things were being asked and why the processes were the way they were, so we could help people through them. And then from there, trying to make sure that, again, our site partners are receiving consistent communication. The impact areas have changed already. There was a lot of confusion between Empire State Service Corps FAFSA impact area, because on the website, it actually said FAFSA Core, which is a completely different SUNY program. Completely different. And overseen by completely different people at admin. So trying to keep all of the buckets in their buckets has proven to be some work. But we're going to continue doing that work and making sure that, yeah.
Do you guys have like a kind of like a electronic flyer or something that we could like send out to our students of what this, like what's available, what they could do, like QR code of where to go to apply type of thing?
We absolutely, yeah. We've created a lot of materials. Right now, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, did we just find out like a couple weeks ago that they have opened 25-26? Jen and I received an application from a student for Empire State Service Corps at complete random about, I think, 2 weeks ago. And we've been trying to figure out if that is an applicant for 25-26, because we had been told previously by SUNY that this year was closed, like rightfully so, because students have to go through the whole year to get 300 hours. So right now, we worked really closely with Kyle Adams and Ivy Poitras at SUNY Admin this past year to update the Empire State Service Corps website through SUNY, which does have a lot of good information on it. And right on that website, there are the buttons to apply. So we are using that website as far as like, but when we post this in Handshake, it's going to be the same thing. We want to be able to utilize Handshake the same way and get students to the application through the system they're normally used to seeing for student employment, which is Handshake. Jen, do we have a timeline based on our new director of the program at SUNY administration as of a couple months ago is Alina? Has Alina said anything about when we expect to be able to market this out to students for 25-26?
So first question is the applicant that we got was actually for.
Is your volume up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just talk loud.
Yeah, it's a little low, but.
Oh, okay. Not sure. Okay, I'll talk loud. So the applicant that we got was actually for this year because some SUNY campuses were actually on pause until this semester because they could not get their policies and procedures in place to roll out the program. So whereas in SUNY Oswego started employing students in September, some campuses haven't started yet. So the application process is still open for them.
Okay.
So it was actually for this year. But I have been
Which
told
was an
that,
issue, because ours is closed, but other.
yeah. So March, we should be hearing about how many spaces we have for next year. And then in April, we'll be starting to open those applications on our campus. And hopefully we get that autonomy that we can put that application together so we can get more information from students.
Yeah, we'd like to understand if SUNY plans to continue based on last year with, I have no problem with the site application, but I would like for SUNY Oswego students to have their own application process because I'm not really sure I would like a logical reasoning as to why the student needs to apply through a SUNY administration application system if they're just being forwarded to us anyway. Because that's creating an application for 64 institutions and then just forwarding on the applicants anyway. I'm thinking it's because SUNY wants to do the work for the campuses, but for us at Oswego, it works against us. It would be better for us to be able to make our own application and have autonomy over the application, I think. We could better lay the groundwork of communication and what the program is to our SUNY Oswego students better if we're allowed to make the student-based application. And make sure our faculty don't have, for example, if our faculty or students have a question about the application, it's a lot harder to change the application when it's not ours.
Right.
And SUNY might come back with a reason why they can't change that language because it needs to be universal for 64 campuses. So yeah, getting some of that autonomy back for our campus and our students' needs are on the top of our priority list. Other questions? We're really excited about it. Students have loved the program.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. I'll probably reach out about site partner that you mentioned.
Are
We
there,
want
I
more
mean,
site partners.
when we talk about site partners, I'm kind of new to this policy and procedures, but just give you an example. I've got an energy class that I teach. Every semester I take the students to a facility that's owned by the city of Oswego. It's High Dam, it's their renewable energies.
Yeah.
Several students at the last visit were very interested in doing potentially an internship or working with that location. So is that something that could potentially happen fall? Could that potentially be a site?
Yeah, we should talk about that for impact too.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a
not-for-profit?
It's a not-for-profit. It belongs to the city of Oswego. There's one person working in the facility who was an alumni of mine. He's the director. He was an alumni of mine from Morrisville. So I've got a connection in the facility. We've been back every semester, do a great tour. They're doing a remodel, but he needs someone to kind of help him. I think it would be a great opportunity for one of our students to kind of, work in the renewable energy sustainability program and kind of take what we're teaching in the class and apply it. But
yeah, and we should talk more too, because one of the things that I'm gonna throw at Mallory, she's in the office back from me and obviously has her video off, but I haven't mentioned to her yet. But I was working on a grant. Hi.
I know she keeps calling you out, Valerie, so.
Well,
Way to
she's my
just drop
director. I
this
have
in
to
a
get permission for
recorded
certain things.
video.
One of the things, Ron, that matters, tech management is the only internship program that has a required 6-credit internship. Every other on-campus internship program, every other major program either has 2 required 3-credit internships or 1 required 3-credit if they have.
Ours is just 3, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
there's
So
Yeah, that's-
what I need to look at for your students is because up until this point, it hasn't been a huge issue, because if you look at the data on your students, which I have, as far as where they're taking internship, most of them are over summer and most of them are already paid because of construction, right? But that does not mean, and there are very few not-for-profits that even really honestly exist as wanting to be internship partners, not-for-profit, right? But that's something that, I'm gonna work with Mallory on to figure out, okay, are we able to have a few slots, because Impact Fund is for 3-credit internships and less. Sound engineering over in music for that minor has a required internship for a 2-credit. So anything between 3 or lower hasn't been an issue for Impact Fund. But if we've got students who are tech management that are the only population that are 6-credit, and there is an off-campus partner that's a not-for-profit local that wants interns, and that's an impact to our community and also our students, because we're always looking for tech management internships. Gosh, it's been not to SUNY Oswego's fault. Thank you, Luke at Tessie, for renewing that partnership after he was the first one, but it's been in the time that I've been here for almost 8 years, tech management, we ebb and flow with how many partnerships are consistently offering to students, consistently recruiting. And I think the only reason that we've kept Tessie is because of Luke.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he is an alum and cares and knows how important that is. And your work with Tessie in bringing them there, and I'm telling you, so I'm happy to look at what our ability is to offer what we can for tech management students, because that is absolutely an area that I think they struggle with, because if I'm a student and I know most of my my peers are getting internships during summer, that's 6 credits of summer tuition that they have to. And that's another thing that, again, hi Mallory, I'm going to talk to Mallory about for this coming summer, because our scholarships even for Impact are 3-credit scholarships. Are we going to put something in place? And we only offer scholarships to students over the summer for tuition who are doing unpaid internships. There's a reason for that, I don't generally have, I don't think I had any unpaid. If I look back from summer 2024, I don't think I had a single unpaid tech management 6-credit.
No, they're typically paid.
And I think
but that's something to look at continuously.
Not to crash this presentation, Tina and Jen, but I think one of our larger goals in experiential learning is to look at program curriculum around experiential learning as a whole to see what makes sense for each individual program, the campus. There's conversations swirling around financial aid and program completion credits and what counts and what doesn't. So taking all of that into account, for those of you who haven't had a chance to read our new strategic plan draft, there's a lot in there about increasing service learning and internships. So how do we all work together to make that make sense for each of your programs, for our students, make them more accessible and equitable so they can get out of here on time and get some really great experience.
I'm going to drop a tech management. I'm going to open a tech management can of worms.
Okay.
Do we know why it's 6 credits? That it has to be 6?
No idea. I have no idea. It was
Because
developed.
I'm like, this might be a good time to start this conversation.
Love that.
Because it's the only one. It's the only one, right?
Well, and it's interesting that the majority are taking it in the summer and they're paying a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough for them to take it while they're taking classes. I mean, let's look at Tessie Plastic. He's gonna be working 2 days a week, and he's not from the area. So Tessie's Plastic is gonna invest a ton of money into this kid, 2 days a week for the semester, and
Oh, and either what, Beeville or Skinny Atlas site?
Skinny Atlas. He's he's gonna be a great kid. Maybe he'll work out and make him a huge offer he can't pass. But the reality is, it's a hell of a risk for an employer paying and training. First day is going to be orientation. I'll see you on Thursday. I mean, I don't understand. That's why I told
And
myself.
during summer, because most of the tech management students are doing it during summer, like most of them are doing it full time anyway. So they're easily getting the 240.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they have to pay $1,000 more in-state tuition.
Right.
Yeah. When I was at Morrisville, we had a full, I think it was 12 credit hour full semester, but it was you did the 2-year degree, then we went to the 4-year degree. That last semester, you're out finding a job. I don't know. I don't know. That's another thing I'd like to see too.
Personally, I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to plop that in there.
Yeah.
That we also do have co-op program. And for example, one of our STEM majors does utilize like a 0 credit co-op experiential learning experience as an elective opportunity where a student doesn't pay for credit over the summer and they go to a full-time 40-hour a week job, which I have absolutely had. I've never, the reason we haven't had tech management students do co-op is because they have a required 6 credit internship.
Yeah, they're pretty stuffed their semester, So.
And it hurts them financially, and it hurts my soul.
Yeah, I'd like to see, we did at Morrisville, we had a pre-semester 1 credit hour prep course that we prepared the student for their application. And it seemed like by the time we got into Christmas break, they were already interviewed and they had the job. They knew they were going to be there in the spring. And now you see our emails, it's, hey, I got to do that. Who do I call? And they don't, So, and I'm on the end of it because I don't have the students in those classes that are prepping them. But I mean, I just happen to, I had these 2 students who were like, I'd like to work there. I'd like to do that. I'd like to learn that. They were both technology teacher, students. They weren't tech management, but I can actually say that it'd be a great opportunity. If you look at what the city of Oswego has and what we have in this community that could benefit from those types of sites.
Right.
The community could benefit, and these kids could definitely benefit. It's just a funding source for the location or the funding source for whoever. But I can understand why it's got to be a nonprofit. But there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of cool stuff going on around the community that aligns with technology, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for us to look at that. So but I have no clue why it's 6.
I don't either. And I've asked the question before, and I've worked with every faculty sponsor that we've had for tech management for the past 8 years. And it was one of my first that I went over and met years ago. And, Rich and I have always talked about it's like, this is, it's one of the things that I feel like is done because it's been done that way.
Yeah, well, there's a lot up there like that, but I don't know. It's easier. It would be easier a full semester 12 because then you can go out and do it.
Do a co-op.
Yeah, do a co-op and that whatever. But I mean, having it at 6
or an option. You should talk to Jess more at some point about how she runs her program as designated. I mean, you're both designated faculty sponsors for your programs.
Yeah, because we just have 3.
You just have 3.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'll talk to Rich. I'll ask him where the 6 come from.
Great. Tell him not to hate me or kill me. I love him.
No, that's okay. That's why you review stuff.
Well, he used to be the coordinator for internships years ago. And he tells me that all the time. And I'm like, go ahead, tell me if you think I'm doing something wrong. I'll fix it. I promise I'm open to any criticism, any feedback. I want it because gosh,
we're gonna have more because they're recruiting more, and there's more There's a lot of students that are, they're going to be in our program. With Micron, a lot of the other things going on, our technology, I think finally our technology teachers at the high school realize that we're not just cranking out technology teachers at Oswego.
No.
We do have a technology management program that's a legitimate, hands-on activity that you can come up for and find a career in. I mean, my son came to Oswego, didn't know if we want to do tech management or ed, decided to go ed, but I think that's one of the selling points of the program is you don't have to make that decision right away.
You and Rich both know how much
Exactly.
I have advocated for tech management and the similarities between mechanical engineering for the past. It's like, it's so misunderstood. And, working with Julia Clark over at Novellus, when I was like, here are the classes they're taking. And she was like, oh, like it's so
it's more attractive to the industry. It really is, because the engineer coming in, I hate to say it's going to sound horrible, but the engineer coming in, salary level is going to be here. But I need somebody like a Luke, that understands engineers and understands technology and change a blade on a table saw and just can go in there and do stuff.
Yeah, isn't it incredible that the one word instead of technology engineering, the fact that it's technology management, that
exactly.
one word, we know, because that's what the one word that keeps our students from even being looked at in a lot of application processes, because it specifically says must be engineering degree.
Yeah, but if you look at if you look at their day-to-day, what they need to know how to do, they're actually probably better.
They are 100% qualified.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yep.
Well, great. Thank you. We are out of time, but thank you so much for the information.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you very much.